Okay, so like, have you ever thought about what it would take to bring cutting-edge tech to, like, a billion people?
A billion.
Yeah, with a B.
That's a lot of people.
It's huge. And EON Reality, well, they actually have this plan.
Oh, wow.
And we're going to take a deep dive into their white paper today and kind of see how they're planning to, well, bring XR and AI to a billion people.
XR and AI, that's quite a combo.
It is. And you know what's really interesting is that it's not just about giving people the tech.
Right.
It's about creating this whole ecosystem.
So it's more holistic than just like, here's a headset, good luck.
Yeah, exactly. They've got this two-pronged approach, and it's called XR Vision Hackathons.
Hackathons, I've heard of those.
Yeah, and these XR exploration labs.
Okay, so like the hackathons I get, but what are these exploration labs all about?
So the hackathons are these like intense 48-hour bursts where people build AI-powered XR demos.
Intense is one word for it.
Right. But then the labs are like, they're more long-term, and they provide resources and mentorship so people can actually develop these projects further.
So it's like taking the hackathon idea and actually giving it legs.
Yeah, exactly. It's like a two-stage rocket.
I like that analogy.
And the goal is to like solve real-world problems with these projects, not just have cool demos.
That's where it gets really interesting, right? Because anyone can throw together a flashy demo, but to actually create something sustainable, that's the challenge.
Totally. So are they basically trying to create a farm system for world-changing technology?
Yeah, I think that's a great way to put it. You've got this initial spark from the hackathon, and then the lab is where it can actually grow into something impactful.
I love that. And the really ambitious part is they want to take this global.
Global.
Yeah, reaching a billion people isn't exactly a walk in the park.
It's going to be a massive undertaking for sure. How do they even plan to do that?
So their plan is laid out in phases. First, they're going to start with these pilot labs just to prove the concept works.
Okay, so like small scale first.
Right. Then they're going to expand nationally.
So like country by country.
Yeah. And then finally, they're going global through partnerships.
Partnerships are going to be key, right? I mean, they're going to need to work with governments, NGOs, educational institutions, all sorts of stakeholders.
Absolutely. And they emphasize collaboration throughout the white paper. They know they can't do this alone.
Makes sense. I mean, a project of this scale, it's going to require a lot of different players working together.
But okay, let's bring this back down to earth for a minute.
Okay.
What does this actually mean for people like you and me? Like, how could this impact our lives?
Well, right now, access to knowledge and technology isn't exactly equal, is it?
Definitely not.
So what this plan is trying to do is level the playing field.
By giving everyone access to these tools.
Exactly. It's about democratizing knowledge and giving individuals the power to learn, create, and solve problems.
Regardless of where they come from or their background.
Exactly. It's a pretty powerful idea.
It's starting to sound less like a tech project and more like a social movement.
It kind of is, right? It's about empowering people and creating a more equitable future.
So they have this grand vision, but how do they actually plan to make it happen?
Well, that's what we're going to dig into next. Their white paper gets into the nitty-gritty of how these hackathons and labs will work, the tech they'll be using, and the challenges they want to tackle.
Sounds like we're just getting started.
Oh, we've only just scratched the surface.
Let's dive deeper and see how EON Reality plans to turn this vision into a reality.
These 48-hour hackathons, though, I mean, are we talking about like hardcore coding all night long?
Not necessarily. Their white paper talks about how they actually use AI to simplify the whole process of XR creation.
Oh, so it's not like everyone needs to be a programming expert.
Right, like imagine being able to create a virtual world just by like describing it to the AI.
Oh, that's pretty wild.
It is, and that's how they want to make XR accessible to people, even if they don't have any coding experience.
So it's like having a superpower design assistant.
Exactly. But they also provide templates and training and mentors to help people along the way.
So they're not just throwing people in the deep end and saying good luck.
Nope. It's all about providing support and guidance.
Which goes back to their whole idea of democratizing knowledge.
Right. It's about making XR creation a participatory process, not just for the tech elite.
I like that. So what happens to the projects after the 48 hours is up, though? Do they just, like, disappear?
That's where the XR exploration labs come in.
Okay. So the labs are, like, the next step.
Yeah, they're like incubators, where people can further develop their projects with guidance and resources.
So the hackathon is like the spark, and the lab is where the fire really gets going.
Exactly. And they provide access to advanced equipment and mentorship and even funding opportunities.
Sounds like they're really setting people up for success.
Yeah, and they've even outlined specific challenges they're hoping to address.
Like what kind of challenges?
Things like climate change, healthcare access, educational inequality.
So real-world problems.
Right. And they're hoping that by bringing people together from different backgrounds, they can come up with some really innovative solutions.
That makes sense. A diverse group of people will have a wider range of perspectives and ideas.
Exactly. But let's be real for a second. Scaling this up to 1 billion people, that's a huge undertaking.
It's mind-boggling. What kind of challenges did they think they might face?
Well, infrastructure is a big one. Not everyone has access to high-speed internet or the necessary hardware for XR.
Right. That's a huge barrier for a lot of people.
They know that, and they're talking about partnering with organizations to address those gaps.
So it's not just about the tech itself, it's about making sure people can actually access it.
Exactly. And then there's the cultural piece. XR experiences designed for one context might not work in another.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point.
They'll need to be really mindful of cultural differences and make sure their approach is sensitive to that.
Definitely. A one-size-fits-all approach won't work here.
And of course, there's the potential for misuse. Like any powerful tool, XR and AI can be used for good or for bad.
That's a bit scary.
It is. And they do talk about that in the white paper. They emphasize responsible development and creating safeguards to prevent misuse.
So they are thinking about the ethical implications.
Yeah, and they even mention creating guidelines for ethical use.
It's good to know they're at least aware of the potential risks.
But it's something we all need to keep in mind as this technology becomes more widespread.
Definitely. It's a conversation that needs to happen on a much larger scale.
So we've talked about the mechanics of the plan, the challenges, but what about the bigger picture? Like, what could this actually mean for the future?
That's the million-dollar question, right? What kind of world are they trying to create, and what role might we play in it?
Let's explore that in our final segment.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've talked about like all the details of their plan, the hackathons, the labs.
Right.
But like, what's the bigger picture here? Why should we even care about bringing XR and AI to 1 billion people?
Well, I think it could really change how we think about knowledge itself.
Oh, so?
Well, right now we tend to think of knowledge as something you acquire, right? Like it's a thing you have or don't have.
Yeah, guess so.
But this plan, it's like they see knowledge as this like living collaborative process.
Okay, so what does that actually look like?
Well, imagine a world where learning isn't stuck in classrooms.
Okay.
Where like a kid in a rural village can suddenly experience the Amazon rainforest through VR.
Yeah.
Or students from different continents can work together on a virtual science project.
So it's not just about accessing information. It's about
Yeah.
actually experiencing it and creating something new.
Exactly. And when you add AI to the mix, it's not just about passive learning anymore.
Yeah. Right.
It's about interacting with information, shaping it, using it to actually create new knowledge.
So they keep saying democratizing knowledge,
Yeah.
but it's starting to feel less like a buzzword and more like a real paradigm shift.
It is. It's about moving away from this idea that knowledge is scarce and controlled by a few.
To a world where it's abundant and accessible to everyone.
Exactly. It becomes like a shared resource that everyone can contribute to and benefit from.
That sounds amazing. But realistically, can they really make this happen for 1 billion people?
It's a massive challenge for sure. They talk about a lot of the hurdles in their white paper.
Like what?
Well, there's infrastructure gaps, language barriers, cultural differences, all sorts of things.
Right. So it's not enough to just build the technology they have to build a whole ecosystem around it.
Exactly. An ecosystem that supports access and participation for everyone.
So it's almost like they're trying to build a new kind of global infrastructure, not just for tech, but for knowledge itself.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it.
And if they pull it off,
Yeah.
the potential is huge, right?
It is. Think about it. We could have people all over the world working together to solve problems like climate change and poverty.
It's like unleashing the collective brainpower of humanity.
Exactly.
But that also brings up a big question about responsibility.
Oh, yeah.
If we're giving this much power to individuals, how do we make sure it's used ethically?
That's a crucial question. And it's something they address in their white paper.
Okay, good.
They talk about the need for responsible innovation, critical thinking, and using these tools for good.
So it's not just about access. It's about making sure people use these tools wisely.
Exactly. And that's a conversation we all need to be having, not just EON Reality.
Right. This is something that affects all of us.
Absolutely.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I'm kind of blown away by the scale of this vision.
It's pretty ambitious.
It is. It's not just about some cool new gadgets. It's about a fundamental shift in how we think about knowledge in our future.
And it really makes you think, what kind of world do we want to create? What role will each of us play in shaping that future?